a state job.
Well, he's chairman of the state Republican.
All right, we're going to go ahead.
Okay, we're ready. Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll call to order the July meeting of the Visual Resources Review Board here for the town of Farragut. Before we've got get to our agenda here, first item, we'll call it 1A, is I would like to extend a welcome to the newest member of the board, Randy Armstrong. Thank you very much for joining us. So the next thing is the approval of minutes for the June 23rd, 2015 meeting. Do we have any discussion on June meeting minutes? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I have one question. What was
Okay.
this bubblegum boutique? I don't remember that.
It's just a wall sign, the Bubblegum Boutique. It's actually out on Parkside Drive. And I have it here. It's actually located there next to Roosters.
Okay. And what is it?
Just a wall sign.
I mean, what is the store? What is the store?
I don't know.
Okay.
My apologies.
All right.
I can find out and let you know.
Yeah.
It's a cute name. I didn't.
Okay. So do we have a motion on the minutes for June meeting? Okay.
I'll
We have a-
second.
All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So we had some wall signs approved between last meeting and this one. Looks like 4 or 5 there. Does the committee have any questions on those wall signs?
I do have a question on the AC Band Restaurant and Lounge.
Yes.
The colors, that whole shopping center is black with the gold outline, and then this is like
They're
red,
red.
white, and
It is actually before Planning Commission this month. We've actually met with them and looked at it. They are redoing that entire shopping center facade, and with that, changing the signage in there. So the signage will no longer be the blank, that kind of bronze colored channel face that's in there, so that you're gonna start seeing a mix as they start to do this project. And we have a rendering, and I'll bring it to our next I'll have Mark actually bring it to our next meeting. Yeah, they're gonna be allowed color and variation. There's an Edward Jones is shown on that plan too, to be green. However, they cannot be illuminated. It's only external illumination, because they're within that mixed-use town center area, kind of like we talked about last time, and are gonna talk about further with that text amendment related to what. So they're channel letters, but there's a stipulation with them that they cannot be illuminated.
so because they're redoing all of it, then
Was-
they
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Anything else you need to tell us, Ashley, on wall signs?
Not unless you have any questions.
All right, we'll move down to ground-mounted sign applications. First item on that agenda there is the Mortgage Investors Group.
The rendering within your packet's a little difficult to see. So here's the existing, here's the sign as it exists today. So they're asking for a tenant panel on this sign. Staff does feel as though it is architecturally architecturally compatible and legible, and staff would recommend approval.
Okay, so that third panel, is it there?
It is there.
there,
They've actually
but-
paid a double permit fee for erecting
Right.
it without a permit.
Yeah.
So I guess this is more of a forgiveness request.
It looks good.
It matches. We're fortunate that it matches. It is.
Right.
It's almost, it's a deep emerald color almost.
Is there a reason why they wanted that green, or they just,
I think it's a part of their brand, actually.
so that, as opposed to doing it like the other ones? But it looks tasteful. Doesn't look bad.
And it's fine because of the other two have colors in theirs too, so.
Yeah, they kept the pattern on there pretty well.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Ideally, should the fonts match the other fonts? Is that what we're after?
That's the only thing that,
Okay,
Color.
okay. Because obviously the third one's a logo and the other two are just type treatments for, yeah.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion? Do we have a motion on this one?
I make a motion, we accept it. I mean, it's there, they pay double and it looks fine, so.
Do we have a second? All right.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the next item tonight is the Pinnacle at Belk.
Sir, this is a 29 square foot internally illuminated sign, and similar to the Best Buy sign back in May, at the Pinnacle, they're redoing some of these larger ground-mounted signs to afford for more tenant panels on them. So that's the request before you now, reducing that Belk area, and here's a picture of the existing, the black background, so we're going to the white background similar to the other sign and adding those 3 other panels. Given that it's consistent with the other ground-mounted sign, the one at Best Buy that we looked at, and legible, staff recommended approval.
Well, it looks pretty straightforward, and the letters looks like they're pretty tall. That's a 13-inch panel. It looks like all 3 of those are, and these letters pretty much look like they're 13 inches or so, so that should be pretty legible through there.
Do they pay more to have that bigger, I mean, they're taking up 3 panels as opposed to the other 3 businesses taking a third of each one of the sign. Does Belk pay more to have that huge, I mean, the bigger sign?
Not from a sign permit application. I don't know what would be in their lease agreement, with their landlord.
Hey, they're an anchor. I mean,
Is that why, because they're an anchor? Okay,
anchors get the bigger sign.
okay, all right.
But they're all permitted the same, $100 fee. Wall signs, ground mounted, all's a $100 fee.
Okay?
Now, speaking of what Randy had said about the font, some of these we do kind of go with like almost the same font. Is that going to be the case? Some we do, and I mean,
Well, like with the last one, we talked pretty extensively last month about not really the font of Men's Warehouse relative to Best Buy, but more the background color, and that being the consistency, the white to make it pop, and then using black letters because Belk here has some coloration in there.
I frankly like this one better than the black. I think you can see that better, but.
I agree with you. I mean, that stands out to me visually. Font can be really at your discretion. I mean, that's Belk's corporate logo and their font there, so.
We can't go telling, change
Oh,
your
no,
font
no,
when it comes to
no, no, no,
logos.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the other ones, just.
But I don't think it would be too far-fetched, just like with the last one, to say, we reasonably expect you to have a white background and a darker black font maybe, or, certainly leeway for some color variation there, but the idea is to keep it legible and clean looking, I think.
Yeah, I think we would all agree with that it needs to look the way it's being presented here as far as the backgrounds are concerned.
And
Yeah.
we'll capture that
Sure.
if somebody wants to make that in their motion whenever we get there. That way, any future tenant, we don't have to have the same conversation that we had with Men's Warehouse last month.
Right. Okay.
Did they go along with us?
We haven't heard back from them.
Oh,
They are aware of our comments, though.
okay.
Well, any further discussion on Belk? Or Pinnacle, really, at Belk? All right, do we have a motion on this one?
I move that the sign as submitted be approved and that future, we'll get into the future. Okay, and that future panels have the white background and lettering,
And the similar lettering.
similar lettering, similar font.
We have a second on that?
And that's on just this base sign, right?
Right.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a sign ordinance amendment for the town center district requirements.
Yes, sir, and in your packet, forgive me, there's kind of a lengthy discussion, but, you know, we talked about this quite a bit last month, so I'm just gonna kind of give you a really quick overview of it. But here is the amendment as proposed. Currently, within this town center district, ground level tenants can have either a wall sign that's flush against the wall or a perpendicular wall sign, so at 12 square feet. So it's an or statement. So the applicant had requested that the signage be reevaluated within this town center area. And what's been provided for with the amendment is actually allowing for one perpendicular wall sign, reducing that size from 12 square feet down to 9 square feet, and then also allowing the flush wall sign at that ratio of 0.75 to 1, not the 1-to-1 as elsewhere within the town. And then denoting the signage or the illumination requirements within the architectural design standards. So that's really, for a long, lengthy explanation in your packet, that's really what the overview is. And I have included in here, you know, I'd emailed these out to everyone just so you could see what we're talking about as perpendicular wall signs. And we felt that these would be under probably that 9 square foot threshold. And just some examples of the brackets too that could be used, and consistency with that maybe as an element. And then, I mean, these are just some examples. So and that bottom one, it's kind of hard to see the perpendicular sign, but it's just to kind of give you a context of walking down a street and knowing maybe how far out it projects, what the clearances would be, that sort of thing. So, and then I threw this in here and I sent it to you all too, because I think sometimes we get lost. This isn't applied townwide. It's this purple area that you're seeing, and where that star is located is where the applicant is requesting to rezone to this town center district too. So then this map would be amended to include that parcel into that purple area, that mixed-use town center area. So just to kind of give you all of the information as it relates to this request, its location, and the area that it would impact within the town. Certainly, properties would have to be rezoned to town center district. Currently, we do not have any of those within the town. And this is the first request we've had to rezone to that district. So do you all have any questions of me as it relates to this amendment?
I think this is pretty consistent with what we discussed last month about possibly having both options for a sign.
Yeah, and the concession of lowering that wall sign, I think,
Right.
too.
So the vent or that little other square is not what they consider. It's gonna be all purple around except for that little spot here.
It was designated, I think it's office, light industrial in that area. Since that,
Behind that, the guy who owned, I don't know who, the guy who owns that behind, gotcha. Oh, okay.
yes, ma'am.
But do they have that choice within the same area?
I'm sorry.
I mean, if you had two people in the same area, could one do the perpendicular and one could do the other side?
It would be if they were zoned TCD, Town Center District, they could have a choice. They could have both if this ordinance went, or they could just have a perpendicular, or they could just have a wall sign. It would be up to the tenant what they wanted, but this amendment affords them the opportunity now where it was either or, now they have the option of both. Not within the town.
Kind of visual.
Let me see.
What that would look like.
Yeah, you can't see it here,
One right here.
but
Oh,
Pebble,
okay.
the Pebble
okay.
Beach
Pebble
on
Beach.
top. You
And
can
that's-
see there's a wall sign there.
Oh, I see it, right there,
Okay,
yeah.
and then-
Wall
okay.
sign and then-
All right.
Yeah.
see it in this picture, but that upper one, the Spice Exchange, it actually has a wall sign on it too, and that lighting that you're seeing coming out is actually illuminating their wall sign that's there. And I only know that because I've taken that picture, but they do have a wall sign. I think it's important to see that perpendicular signs are really for the pedestrian. They're not for vehicular traffic. The wall signs are more to capture that vehicular traffic, so.
So we could see in some of the other town district center, I think Brooklawn Street's on that, we could see them come back.
The caveat is if they rezone to town center district.
Okay, so it's not currently, even though it's designated, it's not currently zoned that.
Yes, this is
Okay,
the future
all right.
land use plan, forgive me. This is the future land use plan. So the area in purple are areas that could potentially be town center district.
Yeah, but could be.
Could be.
Gotcha.
So none of them are currently town center?
No,
Okay.
sir.
We're doing the first one, okay.
Yes, sir.
Alright.
This is the first one. This is the first property within the town to request that rezoning.
So once designated, that town center, do they still have to get approval, or do
Oh,
they
yeah.
automatic? Okay. Okay.
They have to submit a concept plan
But I
just
mean, once
for the
they've
rezoning.
designated the center,
Yeah,
then they still, within that center, have to get approval.
yeah.
For the illumination, can they illuminate both signs, or does it state they can only illuminate the wall sign?
We would only encourage them to illuminate the wall sign.
That could be either internal or external?
The wall sign has to be externally
Well,
illuminated.
okay, that's what I was wanting to clarify. It
So
has
we
to be external.
encourage them, but there's nothing in there that says that they can't?
It doesn't really say in the ordinance, and so it's, and Mark and I have talked about it today, and we talked about the likelihood of someone illuminating a projecting perpendicular sign, and honestly, we didn't feel that that would be as desirable as probably illuminating their wall sign, and hopefully there's enough building lighting and accent lighting that it's glowing to an extent to be able to capture that, and street lighting too, to show that. So since there's streetscapes with town center areas, so
So if they decide to do that, there's not anything in the
it
I think under the current construction of the buildings in town, it doesn't really present itself very well to illuminate both. But there could be, this new development could be constructed in such a way that because if you have more pedestrian traffic, you might need that perpendicular sign illuminated at night, especially during the winter when it gets dark so early. So that would be a
And I know the last meeting,
possibility.
we talked about that if it was hanging underneath, then those lights would illuminate it. But we
Would
didn't talk
illuminate it.
about kind of like the Cafe 4 one, where it's, or really most of these, where they are just perpendicular, they're not hanging underneath. If there was going to be any illumination internal.
Now, does that have internal, it looks like?
Cafe 4 looks like it might.
Cafe 4 probably does, I would think. I can't really tell
I
unless
think
we
it has
saw.
light up above it, maybe.
I think it does too, because it almost.
Potentially. But that may, but you have to go back to our lighting ordinance too, if it's not shielded. I mean, basically, we have an anti-glare ordinance, so it couldn't contradict that too. So it's also the language within the architectural design standards, which it's not calling for illumination within those standards. No, do not, well, it's internal illumination, so, do not use internal illumination within the town center, so, I can share that if further with, I'll be glad to talk it over with Mark further, I think,
Also, we talked like the lanterns, and that's one of the things, so that, the lanterns, it's not gonna be, that's not illuminating, I mean, is that what you're considering illuminating,
the wall sign, yeah, that would be the external illumination. And there's several different styles, you know, we talked about the
Right,
gooseneck or a lantern style, and there's some really creative ones out there that are architecturally unique to illuminate signage. So, I mean, in this area, you're not gonna have box signs, you're not gonna have, channel letters with raceways as wall signs.
So technically,
I'm really thinking the building will illuminate it enough, and any street lighting that's proposed through there enough to where there wouldn't be a need to illuminate the perpendicular signs. But I certainly understand that concern.
Right, I just wonder if they're gonna look at that when they look at the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Is it enough, or, you know,
Right,
can we add
exactly.
another one when they come to us for the sign and say, oh, hey, we're gonna put
Get it
a
off the
lantern
desk.
on it, you know, it's like,
Right.
I mean, are we backed into
Kind
a
of maybe
corner
need to
of,
clarify before they get
Brought
here.
up
Yeah,
early
because
on in the game when they're designing the building.
I think so
You
too.
know.
I think that's more of a, I mean,
It will
probably,
eliminate a
NPC
lot of problems in the future.
In the wintertime, it's dark by 6 o'clock.
That's true.
Yeah.
If they're restaurants, definitely you'd want
Hey. Mhm. So for us tonight, we're just making a motion to vote on the changes here. Obviously, the illumination will be part of the architectural design, which is already there.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're just moving this on up the board, to the next board, right?
That's right, and actually, I will say, Planning Commission looked at it at their last meeting, and took the comments that we had from you all last month and looked at it, and this is the language that they were comfortable with here. So, we were waiting to take it to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen until we had this meeting, so.
So you want to suggest what we just discussed?
I will, yeah, I'll discuss it with Mark tomorrow, too.
I think we'll eliminate a lot of headaches.
Right. All right, is there any other discussion on the changes here to the Town Center District? Okay, do we have a motion?
all motion to approve?
And do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No. That looks like the last item, unless you have anything else.
To remind you all of our training session tomorrow night, 6
Okay.
o'clock. Overview of meeting protocol. Margaret Norris with MTAS will be doing the first half of the session, then Tom Hell, the town attorney, will be doing the second half of the session. So it's only supposed to last right about an hour, so hope you all can make it. I know, I think everybody's RSVP'd, so.
This actually, do we, vote, I mean, since it's the new board, we do, is it next month or is it this month? We're supposed to vote on?
Your election of officers, we'll put it on next month's. Yep, for sure.
All right,
to. Are you go out
that's it.
I hope you're
campaign?
still saying right.
Yeah, I'm here.
It doesn't matter if he's here or not
That's
next
right,
week,
that's right.
next month.
If you're not here, you're still going to be.
Randy, or let him tell
Yeah.
him, let him tell us a little about himself. so we
Sure.
can kinda-
Absolutely.
Cause I